So a lot of people out there want to manipulate, okay? And the thing is, sometimes they don't know where to start. They don't know where to find their targets. They do find their targets, they're completely misreading them. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're thinking big, I feel like a lot of people think, oh, someone who's mentally feeble, someone who's like crying all the time, just like a nervous wreck. That's not always the best for your brand of manipulation, especially if you're a gaslighting, everything's your fault type manipulator. Because the thing is, you don't want someone that weak because they've played those games before, okay? How do you think they got that mentally weak in the first place? Sometimes they got it from their family members, their parents, okay? That's perfectly fine in that case. However, other times they got it from a previous relationship, maybe friends they've been around, and at that point, it's that they've played those games before. Okay, they're much more likely to catch on if they've established any sort of support system in their life. However, we can't agree just in general having a support system is a bad sign, but if they've established one, then that support system is much quicker to tell them, oh, this person, they might be gaslighting you. They might just be pinning things on you when it's not necessarily your fault. If you want to gaslight somebody, you want to be their first gaslighter, okay? So you want to come across someone who seems strong-minded, who seems like they've honestly not been through that much in their life. You want to be the first one because the second gaslighter is never as good as the first. Most of the time when you're manipulating, you want to work in when you're finding your target, you want to look through two extremes, right? You want either that super like healthy, like strong-minded person who seems like completely fine, well-adjusted and everything, or you want that weak person who's like very clearly crying all the time and just has been through the ringer. I mentioned before that you didn't want that person. However, again, it depends on your style of manipulation. Like me personally, I'm a love bomber. Like that's what I do. Okay. So that group, like, back in my heyday, that was my bread and butter. The thing about love bombing, okay, is when you find someone who's been treated so horribly their entire life, they're fiending for love, okay? They're fiending to be love bombed. So that's why it's a situation where sometimes they can tell you're doing it, but they don't want to stop it just because they want that love so bad. They're desperate just to feel good again because they haven't felt good in so long, okay? And that's why, in my opinion, I'd say that's the easiest job to do. However, it comes with some occupational hazards, okay? Because most of the time they're not very mentally stable, can be a danger to you. It's all fun and games until they're beating down your door at 3 a.m., okay? However, someone you wouldn't want to love bomb is someone who seems like they believe in themselves, they're super confident, just like living through life because they're much quicker to see through that. Mind you, love bombing, undefeated. Okay, like I think you, as a love bomber, you never really have to worry that much. Okay, however, with someone who's completely mentally unstable, you can love bomb them the first night and you'll be completely fine. Okay, however, someone more mentally stable, someone who carries themselves better, you might have to wait a bit. Okay, you might have to taper off. Someone who's much more mentally stable, you're gonna have to do work to get to that love bombing point. Okay, and like honestly, being a manipulator, you're going to have some initial charisma to get your foot in the door regardless. Because simply put, you can't manipulate someone who doesn't want you. Okay, like what's the point of love bombing someone who doesn't want anything to do with you? Like how could you gaslight someone who has no stake or claim in what you want to be, or what they want with you? I remember this one girl was telling me like, "Oh, Bryce, like I hate myself because of you. Like I feel so dumb, blah blah blah. You gave me depression, blah 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 blah." And it's like I don't care. You know what I mean? Now, mind you, was she gaslighting me? Honestly, I don't even care if she was because again, at that point, she was already being removed from my life. I was like, why are you coming to me with this? So yeah, you got to get them to care in the first place, okay? But here's the thing: I will say something about the tweeners, okay? The people who are not on either ends of those extremes, as far as being like super well-minded and super unwell-minded. The ones in the middle, they can be the most complicated. However, I'd say it makes both facets of manipulation easier. If you have people skills, right, and you can read people, it's much easier for you to figure out what you have to do in both directions, okay? Like you see what you can get away with on the gaslighting end and see what you can get away with on the love bombing end. It's like if you lack those people skills and lack those reading skills, you are going to struggle. But something I want you to understand in general is nobody's safe from manipulation, okay? There's nobody that is like beyond the point of being manipulated if it's done well enough, okay? Even someone who's a manipulator themselves. You can know all the tricks, you can know all the tips in the trade and still succumb to it. I remember when I made my manipulation videos on TikTok, people are like, ooh, I'm gonna watch these so I know what to avoid, okay? And it never made any sense that people did that. Especially when I'm talking about love bombing, okay? Because then it's like, it's literally just saying nice words to somebody. That's all love bombing is when it comes down to it, is being nice to someone. Now, obviously, people are like, oh, it's being too nice too fast, but what does that even mean, okay? In this day and age, everyone wants instant gratification. You see people say it all the time, oh, if they're not obsessed with me from the jump, I don't want it, okay? So it's like, yeah. And then those same people, like, don't want to get love bombed. So it's like, what exactly do you want? Basically, people would watch my videos, my love bombing videos, and be like, oh, so now when people say this, I know that they're full of it. And it's like, no, like, you understand the concept of manipulation, the concept of lying even, is saying things as if you genuinely feel them. There's simply nothing you can look at as like, oh, that's just a line that they use, in this situation. Because the thing is, there's gonna be a situation when it's not a line. Like, I've told countless people that I love them when I knew I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that simple, okay? However, when I do actually love someone, I'm still saying I love them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how it works. There are times where I've said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would do that to me. It feels like you're just being so inconsiderate of my feelings, when the person was being very considerate of my feelings, okay? They didn't really do anything wrong. Then a situation comes across where someone is being inconsiderate of my feelings, I'm gonna say the same exact thing, okay? That's the point. That's what makes it so good. That's why you can't trust anybody. It's just the nature of the beast. So those people going through life being like, oh, like these are the lines I gotta watch out for, those are some of the easiest marks, the easiest targets, because literally all you do is say the opposite. And they're like, oh, since they're saying the opposite of this thing that I'm just like categorizing as manipulation, that means they're not manipulating me. Like, if you listen carefully, people will tell you exactly how to manipulate them, exactly how to lie to them. I remember I was talking to this one girl and I said, I appreciate you for being so understanding. I'm trying to remember the specific context of it. Oh yeah, no, here's the crazy part. She wasn't even being understanding for it. I think it was an instance where it's like, I forgot to text her or something, and then she was mad about it. I was like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, like, I appreciate you apologizing, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, thank you for being understanding. And then she was like, that's actually a trigger for me, because, in the past, like, there'd be guys who would just like, just drag me through the mud, just do so much, blah, 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 blah. And they would always just say, like, thank me for being like so understanding. For one, that is ridiculous. Okay. That's you cannot take that compliment simply because, by the way, I'm looking at my audio. Let me know if this video is quieter, because it's showing that it's quieter. I might turn it up in post. Anyways, it's like, that's a ridiculous thing to say, because understanding is just a regular compliment. Like, me saying you understand something, it's like, look at the instance in which you're understanding. Like, me saying, whoopsie, I didn't see your message, that's why I responded a couple hours late. Like, that's not you understanding me. Like the men she was talking about, like, were literally like cheating on her and being like, oh, like, thank you for understanding. That's clearly not what I was doing. Like, people aren't smart. But on top of that, she was telling me that I could do anything crazy, and as long as I don't call her understanding, things might go okay for me. She's telling me that she has a long tolerance for dealing with foolery, and nonsense, tomfoolery. Here's the thing I usually say. I usually say, don't take, someone's exes like too much as like, oh, like, this is what you're going to be able to do, because, those people are exes for a reason. Oftentimes they were the ones who are like, oh, this ex was doing this, so I'm going to end things with them. In particular instances, say, ex super manipulative, doing a lot of crazy stuff, and then they broke up with them. Like, the manipulator broke up with your new manipulation target. At that point, they're clearly willing to accept it, right? Because they didn't even end the relationship on their terms. And then in the instance I just told you about, where shorty, she was like, oh, like, you can't say I'm understanding because blah, 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 blah. She clearly doesn't even know what's going on. Like, she doesn't really understand, like, what it was that the, oh, you're so understanding comment came from. And the thing is, if she actually thought that's what I was doing, like, if she genuinely thought like, oh, I'm on that type of timing to be like, you're so understanding, then drag her through the mud, why didn't she just end it right then and there? You know what I'm saying? The more time someone spends like convincing you that like they can't be trifled with and not just exiting the situation, those are the people that can be trifled with the most. You know what I'm saying? Like, someone who takes the time to sit down and tell you, look, I'm not going to deal with you doing XYZ, is clearly dealing with you doing XYZ because they're willing to have a conversation with you about it. When it comes to things that I don't deal with, like things I genuinely don't deal with, that person, they're never going to hear about it from me. I'm just going to be gone. Because if you're not putting up with it, what is there to talk about? Like, how is that a discussion? Like, if you're like, okay, this is a thing that I have zero tolerance for, how is it even a topic of conversation? You're either in there or you're not in there. And if you're enough to talk about it, if you're willing enough to talk about it, you're in there. It's like those people who are like, oh, like, I don't put up with any foolishness. That's why if you see me on Twitter, bro, and I'm like arguing with like some post where it's like, ooh, you mess up once, then you're getting cut off. And I'm like, yeah, bro, like, most people who say this are capping. It's because they are capping. A lot of people who've been hurt love, getting on the internet, and presenting like this vision of themselves where it's like, oh, I have no tolerance for BS. Like, if you try BSing me, you're going to regret it, blah, 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 blah. And they be taking the most BS. There have been plenty of situations where I've like talked to women, put them through the most BS, right? And then after I leave the situation, they're talking about like, yeah, I don't put up with nothing. And it's like, girl, like, you were just putting up with so much. Like, you're not a man eater. No, you just got ate by a man. And in some instances, men do the same thing. And it's like, nah, bro, you're not a woman eater. You got eaten by a woman. Like, if anybody is like blatantly like trying to encourage you that they're a certain kind of way, you know what I mean? And like, it's one thing, like, I feel like people would say this about my stories, like, oh, like, he's trying to like paint himself in a certain light because these stories. No, I'm just telling you what happened, okay? But if I get on here every day and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm this kind of person. I don't take any foolishness. I don't take any disrespect, blah, 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 blah. I'm clearly the kind of person who takes disrespect, because why do I feel the need to say that if it's just so blatantly true? I say this specifically when it comes to things like interpersonally dealing with other people. Okay, like if you say something about yourself like, oh man, like I'm a hard worker, then like you might be a hard worker just because, you know what I mean? But like oftentimes when people say something like socially, like, oh, you know, I'm nonchalant, I don't put up with foolishness, blah blah blah, and they just keep like broadcasting those things and like saying, like claiming to be those things, like not just like claiming to be those things. Oftentimes it's not true. Okay, they're putting on a show. If I'm about to date someone, right, and they say, hey, I'm just letting you know that like I don't put up with any foolishness. No, that's happened before. I remember this one girl, she's like, oh, I don't play any games, like I know you're like a games guy, but I don't play games, blah 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 blah. If you were really not a games girl, you wouldn't be worried about the concept of me playing games, because the second the game started, you just wouldn't play. You know how sometimes, like in passing, if it comes up, I'll mention that I don't date people that are close to their families. You know how many times I've said that to someone that I was dating? Zero. Zero. You know why? Because I'm gone. I had that one instance dating that girl who was mad close to her family, and that was enough for me. Okay, after that, I knew I'd have to check out of any situation I was in like that. You don't see me tweeting about it unprovoked to make myself feel better. It's just something that occurs. It's like people who get on any of these apps, you know, they're on dating apps, like when their first messages to you, it's in their bio, oh, I don't play games. Just unprovoked, talking about like not playing games. They be playing the most games. They be ready for it, okay? That's why I don't believe any, I don't buy into any of that like fake motivational stuff. Like these people just recycle the same old lines that they heard other people say because it makes them feel better, makes them feel more confident. That's why some of these like well-minded, like super like healthy people are like the most insecure people you'll ever meet when you actually get down to it. That's exactly why they're the perfect target for gaslighting, okay? Because they don't believe in themselves. Everything about them is performative, okay? And disgusting, a little icky, a little gross. I feel like the point I'm making, I'm not really hammering it home well enough, okay? But I think this next point I'm gonna hammer home. I saw a TikTok the other day, right? Where it was like, when your ex is like posting to like make you like mad or jealous, and you don't even care. And it's like, they were like laughing or something. They're like, ha 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 ha. If your ex is trying to make you mad and jealous, right? And you happen to see it and you don't care, why are you making a TikTok talking about how much you don't care? That sounds like caring to me. Mind you, it was a short video, so it wasn't even a monetizable TikTok. It's not like they're making money off it. People who are truly unbothered, untouchable, nonchalant aren't posting about the fact that they're untouchable, whatever, and nonchalant. Like, those are people who are very phased and insecure about whatever's going on, okay? So that goes for the same people who are going to tell you that they don't play games, tell you that they're so healed. Ooh, I go to where I'm wanting. Anytime I see someone say, I go to where I'm wanted, I promise you they're going to the last place they're wanted. Like that side over there, you know, the whole, oh, I'm healed side, they're full of it, okay? They're full of it. Don't let them intimidate you by like, you know, feeding into their lies. The thing is, like the mentally weak, the super like, you know, manipulatable, like they're just like out there in the open with it. They're very honest with you about how they are. It's very clear. They're crying all the time. They're like, oh, why would you say this? Like, what's going on? Wah, 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 wah. They're wah, wah, wahing. And over here in the healthy side, they're essentially the same thing. They're just not doing it out loud. So nobody's safe, okay? However, again, I will say the safest group, it's the people in the middle, okay? The people who act normal. Because again, if you can't get a read on them, then you can't get a read on them. And personally, I feel like I'm one of those people, okay? I could be a bit wrong. Like the things, I feel like I'm not out here like crying, like sobbing, like, oh my gosh, like where are you going? Where are you going? Ah, stuff like that. But also, I feel like I'm not on this side claiming to be healed, claiming that like I can't be hurt, claiming that I can't be manipulated, because I definitely can, okay? So that's why I fall some places in the middle. And that's why when sometimes like they're trying to manipulate me, it just doesn't work. Like, oh, you're a horrible person, you're a narcissist, like how could you say this, blah 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 blah. And I just simply don't care. It's so funny. Like there are things, like I'm not gonna tell you, but there are things about me that people could come for just in general, okay? Like even outside just like relationship manipulating me, like people could come for me. Like when people hate on me, like on the internet, like they could come for things that would genuinely like make me feel some sort of way. They never do. Never. They go for the things that like I'm just like profoundly confident about. Like, oh, you're gay. Oh, you wear earrings. Doesn't affect me at all. 'Cause mind you, those are things like I literally like say, like I feed into it, okay? But it's like they're still coming at me with that. I was like, bro, like I was in a situation with this girl where I was talking, right? And she called me like feminine as an insult. You know, like we're just in a little talking stage. She called me feminine as an insult. She knew me for like a couple weeks at that point. So I'm like, bro, like I feel like you should know better than to like hit me with that. Like I don't care. Like there's a lot of things that people could do to make me feel some sort of way, but they can't because they can't get a read on me. Okay. However, on the other side of things, when it comes to love bombing, super susceptible, bro. You can love bomb the crap out of me. I'll fall for it every time. But then the problem with the people who try to manipulate me is they're so scared of me, like as a manipulator, that I'm gonna come through and love bomb them better, that they can't really like lean full sail into the love bombing. That's another thing about love bombing. You can't be worried about perception. Like you can't be worried about, oh, like, does this person think they have the social upper hand? Like, what if they think I'm like too into them, blah, blah, blah. You're manipulating. So it's like, it doesn't matter what they think, okay? Are they even a person to you at this point? Yes, they should be, like a little bit, but like, you know what I'm saying though. I'm telling you this, when you don't worry about it, you literally never have anything to worry about, okay? Like when someone's trying to love bomb me, right? And they're worried like, oh man, like he's gonna think like I like him more than he likes me, blah, 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 blah. Mind you, most of the time in that situation, they do, because that's why you're thinking like that. But in situations where I've been love bombed freely, oh man, I didn't even think about that just because I was so into the love bombing. Like there's this one girl, like she got so like hesitant to like love bomb me. Like here's the thing. I knew that's what she was doing. But again, I didn't care. I'm so susceptible to it. So I'm eating up everything she's like putting down. But then like she's like talking to me. She's like, oh, like, you know, I feel like I'm like coming on too strong, blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, that's a love bomber tactic. If you ever want to know how your love bombing is going, always be like, oh, you know, I hope I'm not coming on too strong, blah, 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 blah. And it depends like how enthusiastic they are in their response to like, depend on how you continue the love bomb. If you do it too much and then like you temper like, is it temper or taper? By the way, I'm at the end of the video, I'm gonna explain why this video I'm kind of like out of it. But basically, like temper, taper, expectations, something like that. So then it's like, bro, now the love bombing has lessened, and I'm like, now I'm less into you. You know why? Because now the rush of the love bomb is gone. I'm gonna tell you this: you go in there knees deep and you start love bombing super hard. It gets to the point where that love bombing works so well that they're so into you, and you just remember you're like, oh yeah, like they're, even though I'm love bombing right now, they're clearly more into me. You know what I mean? Even based off like the stuff you're saying. Like I can say to someone like, oh, like, you know, I want to marry you and have kids with you. And like they can take it a step further. They're like, oh, like let's name the kids. Like, what are they gonna be? Like blah blah blah. And then they start bringing it up more. And then it's like, okay, like even though I'm love bombing, I'm still like winning the issue. Like I still would say I had the social upper hand. But when you're scared, you know what they say? Scared money don't make money. Okay. So when you're a scared love bomber, you're not actually gonna love bomb effectively. Same thing with other manipulation tactics too, like gaslighting. Like if you gaslight and you're only halfway in it, like if you're like, oh man, like how could you do that? You know, like that was your fault, blah blah blah. And then they push back, and then you're like, you know what? I'm sorry, like blah blah. Unless at that point you're completely deciding that gaslighting isn't the way to go, you're completely folding on yourself. Because I'll tell you this right now, a lot of people push back in certain situations just because they feel like they have to. You know what I mean? Like there are situations where you can gaslight somebody and they push back and they're like, no, like that's not right, blah blah blah. But you keep going. And they're like, oh, like I actually knew I was wrong the whole time, but like I just like felt like I had to push back because, you know, people are just stubborn. You just got to be confident in it. You got to believe in it. All right. Again, you have to get them to that point where they care that you're manipulating them in the first place. But you have to believe in the hype and the effectiveness of your own manipulation for it to fulfill the prophecy. As for targets, I'm gonna tell you again. Okay, when you take someone who's mentally ill, you know, super weak, like crying all the time, you want to love bomb them. I don't think I explained why earlier, but you want to love bomb them because you want to lift them up. You want to be the person to like lift them up into feeling great about themselves, okay? Because they're always going to remember it's you. No matter what you do after the love bombing, it's like, oh, you know, I was feeling so bad before this person came along and they uplifted me. They made me feel so good. They made me feel loved, yada, yada, yada. On the other hand, a healthy person who loves themselves, okay, you want to give them a bit more blame, okay? You want to make them think that they're not exactly as good as they think they are. Because honestly, to be honest, most of the time they aren't, okay? And that's what makes it very easy. Like the people who like claim to be like, oh, like super healed, super self-righteous, stuff like that, they wish they were actually like the people in the middle who are just more honest with themselves. Because the thing is, we're all human beings, you know what I mean? Like nobody's perfect, okay? But these people who try to portray themselves as perfect, they're the problem. Those are the ones it's easy to knock them down a few pegs, because the thing is, they know internally that they're full of it. They know when they talk about how confident they are that they're not actually that confident, okay? So that's why their self-esteem can be lowered pretty quickly, especially if you put them in a position where your opinion is something of value, okay? They see value in you. Obviously, if you're in a situation where they see you as like just some like, you know, like scrap, like some like rat like clawing at them, then no, they're not going to care, okay? But if you can make yourself this big person where it's like, oh my gosh, this person has so much value, like they're so impressive to me, you know, and they're making me think that, you know, I'm not all this, I'm probably not all this. And as for anybody along the middle, along the spectrum, you mix and match, okay? You do both when you have to. And those ones can be the most rewarding and best to pull off, because again, like if you factor in someone's support system, the one where you're completely like lowering their confidence, their support system could call that out. And then the love bombing, this one's support system could call them out. Even though on the love bombing end, it's much less likely, because it's like, oh, you know, you're my friend. I'm so glad like people are loving on you, blah, 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 blah. It makes sense. Like their family and friends are going to want you to be glazing them. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you have like this person that's like glazing you. They're going to think you're the best thing since sliced bread for that person that they're supporting. However, if that manipulation target says a bit too much, they might try to get them to taper their expectations, and they might say something like, oh, like they said this already? Oh, you got to watch out, blah, blah, blah. Now you're under suspicion. It's a lot more perfect when you're in the middle, okay? And you can mix love bombing also with a little bit of gaslighting, a little bit of like, hey, like, are you good enough though? Because then it's like, it seems like a normal balance of like, oh, you know, this person's being uplifted, but at the same time, you know, it's not going too far. Like it's still, you're still humanizing this person. Because that's how normal relationships go about anyways. You know, it's never like an all or nothing, like, oh, you're so great or you're so horrible. Usually there's a mixture of both, okay? And when you're manipulating someone in that center part, that's when you can blend in with those normal relationships. However, again, sometimes the risk is you miss the mark entirely. Like I remember I told you that girl, she said love bombing was her ick. I had no idea how to talk to her after that. Me and her never got close enough for me to gaslight her. You know what I mean? Like I never presented enough value to get to the point where I could like put her in a position where she was like below me. You know what I mean? And you know, fair enough. All's fair in love and war. It's like you want to take this manipulation target, you know what I mean? He, her, them, whoever it is, you want to take them and make yourself bigger, okay? Make yourself this presence that's larger than life for them. You want to be on a level like kind of like a god to them, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that in like a super like religious sense. It's like you want to be something that they revere, okay, in one way or another. So it's like it's gonna get to the point where if you're something they revere and you're love bombing them, you're uplifting them, oh my gosh, it's so great, this great person's uplifting me, you know. And then if you're, you know, kind of like cutting them down a bit, it's like, oh my gosh, this great person's cutting me down, I really got to analyze. You see what I mean though? But yeah, it's like select your target wisely, okay? And then also just know what you have to do in order to like get the job done. But anyways, that's the video. And guys, I am so like sick actually. Like a few times I had to stop the video to not down here like in the bathroom, but like yeah, I'm struggling health wise. And also I don't know how this is happening, but it's showing my audio like as I'm recording as being like much lower than it usually is. You know, like usually, I mean, it's not like it's usually like peaking or anything, but like usually it's like sometimes I get close to peaking and I'm like, oh, I have to be careful. But right now it's very low. I'm going to turn it up in post. Please comment if you noticed anything weird about the audio. I'm so sorry about that anyway, if it is like too weird. Yeah, I'm sick. My head hurts too, man. Also, you see my face is kind of like unshaven. Basically, I know I had that whole big thing where I was like, oh, when I hit like 6K, like I'm going to shave. The thing is, my girl shaved my face when she was here, right? And by the way, she wanted these earrings, bro. And here's the, I'm like, bro, I can't give you these earrings because now they're like my trademark. You know what I mean? Like I can't have people thinking like I got rid of the earrings like once people started like bashing me for them. But anyways, my girl shaved my face, but I never actually got new trimmers, right? But I'm, what time is it right now? 1:57. I might have to find time to get in some new trimmers. But yeah, I need to handle that. I've been playing Marvel Rivals. Man, so fun, bro. So fun. I hadn't been playing competitive whatsoever. Like I haven't been playing ranked because I just still want to like, you know, learn and like get better. But now, like I think yeah, it was just yesterday I started ranked. You know, I'm kind of one tricking Iron Fist. Yeah, I'm getting a job done. It's so fun. I love going around punching people, but I am feeling so sick. So I can't talk about the state of affairs for too long. But here I am with the daily uploads. You know, despite the illness. Oh. So yeah, let me know about the audio. My bad about that. And let's hope I feel less sick when I have to record again. Or maybe I should like record more today so I can just like rest more. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But thank you so much for watching. I love you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, everything I have to say. I'm so sorry. And you'll have a great day, night, evening, morning, which